video is about preparing your items for the recycling bin. But before I start, I want to give some background about why we need to do these things. To start with, we create about 4 pounds of trash per day per person. And if we talk about just the state of Indiana, at about 6 million citizens, that's 24 million pounds of trash every day. And that's why recycling makes such a difference. The other thing is that the volume of it makes it so that no one else is going to clean our things for us. So it's my job to make sure that it's clean. There are a couple good reasons why we clean our items. One is that many hands will touch your items once they leave your house. There isn't a recycling fairy that comes along and fixes these things for you. There will need to be people who sort the items. There's a broker who sorts it even further before it gets to the final destination to be recycled. So a little bit of food waste can be very nasty and a human hazard by the time it gets to the final destination. The other reason is that a lot of our recycling is sorted with what's called a wash bath. The wash bath isn't necessarily to clean the items per se, but to help separate out into the different kinds of plastics or the papers and things like that. So a little bit of food particle can mess with that sort of process. We're going to start with the barbecue sauce container, as it's going to take the most amount of effort. First thing we need to do is remove the cap, and that is not going to be recyclable. Set it in my trash can. Now it's got a plastic lid on the top, and I'm going to give it a quick rinse off the top. And then it's handy to have some small needle nose pliers, and if I pinch that in there, I need to remove this little plastic cap, and that's also going to go in the trash. Now I have easier access to rinse out my bottle. So what I'm going to do is use a tiny bit of warm water, put my hand over the end of it, and shake it. That will loosen most of the items in the bottle, and so I pour it out. Now I only need to do one more quick rinse like that. And if there's anything stuck around the edge, I don't know if you can see how there's just like a little bit of barbecue sauce right there. Then I can just use my finger and a scrub brush. If you have one of these at your house, you just give it a quick scrub around the top. I'm not using any soap, just water at this point. And now my bottle is clean and ready to be recycled. I'm also going to turn it upside down because we also want our items to be dry. Because even if I missed a tiny little crumb of stuff in here, if I let it dry, it's not going to get gross. Where if I let the water sit in there, it could turn into mold and then cause the bottle to not be recyclable. So I'm just going to turn it upside down like this and set it in the other side of my sink. Okay, up next is the butter dish. Now the butter dish is going to take a little more effort because what was in it is kind of oil-based. So for it, I'm going to use a tiny squirt of dish soap. Just one little teeny drop of it. Again, a little bit of hot water. Put the lid on. And shake it over the sink. Whoops. This one I'm going to shake just a few more seconds longer to help get more of that out. And to make it a little better, I'm going to use my fingers in the soapy water and just kind of run along the ridge to make sure I get all of the butter out of the container. Now I just dump out the soap water, give it a quick rinse, and it's clean and ready to go in the recycle bin. The lid was the same process. And for it, most of the butter came off during the shaking process. Give it a quick rinse of the soap and it's ready to go. And moving on, let's do the milk container next. Now this one I have not pre-rinsed, and you can see there's just a tiny bit of milk in the bottom of it that we couldn't get all the way out. So I'm going to remove the cap, put it in my little tray to be thrown away. We're going to do triple rinse on it. This one I like to do a kind of a swirly rinse because you want to be able to get in the water into the handle and along the sides of the container. So that's one. 2, 3. Now it's clean. I don't know if you can see, but you can see there's no milk residue in it. Now we're going to set it upside down to dry. Okay, now before we move on to the rest of the recyclables, I want to show you another trick about this. So when I talk about the 4 pounds of trash per day per person, our trash is obviously weighed. And so things like this don't weigh very much, but they take up a lot of space. So to save me from having to make as many trips to the recycling center, I like to condense down what I have and I smash it. And so this one's kind of silly, but it's an easy way to smash your milk jug is to put it against your counter and just lean against it. This is pretty silly, but it works and it smashes it nice and flat, and then you can get more items in your recycling bin. On peanut butter, this one's already been washed, but I'm going to show you how I do it. It sticks to the bottle really well, and it's important that we get that out of there. So the trick on peanut butter is to get as much out as you can with a spoon. Put a dab of soap in it, just a tiny bit, again, just a teeny tiny bit. I don't know if you can see how much, I just put a tiny bit. Then I'm going to fill it with hot water all the way to the top. This one takes a little more water. Just like that. Then I'm going to put my lid on. I'm just going to scrape that soapy bit off the top. Give the outside a quick rinse. Now I'm going to, it's full of soapy water. I'm just going to set it in my sink or on my counter overnight. If that sort of thing drives you nuts, you could always put it under the sink overnight if you can't stand to look at it. And once we come back to it the next day, we take it with that water in there and we shake it. And we got to shake it really good at this point. But you'll start to see all the peanut butter bits come off the inside of the container. We'll do that one good shake. Empty that out. It's all slippery. Then you rinse out the soapy water. Okay, next up is steel or tin cans, and they're super easy to do. You just rinse out all of the food residue inside. I like to take the lid that I opened it up with and put it inside and give it a quick squeeze the top just to help hold that lid inside, and that way it doesn't cut me or the guys who work at the recycling center. And then it's ready to go in the recycle bin. Okay, paperboard is also pretty easy. We're going to pull out the plastic liner and throw that away. And then this is an extra step that you don't have to do, but I like to do it to help save space in my recycle bin, is to break down the box. You just bust open the top and press it flat, and that way more items can go inside my recycling bin. The pile of recyclables that we had, this is how much of it I have to throw away. A very teeny tiny bit. So I find this acceptable, and I hope that this helped you learn more about how to prepare your recyclables. I'm sure you'll have questions, so feel free to contact the Solid Waste District to ask any questions you might have, and we'll try to help you in any way that we can. Thank you.